This episode, tips for hiring a handyman. Well, Johnny and I decided we did this show in 2019, and we decided it's time to revisit tips and tricks for hiring a handyman. And we pulled this information mostly out of some posts that have been coming out. So we want to present both sides of the hiring of a handyman presentation. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled Tips and Tricks for Hiring a Handyman. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, Johnny. Johnny, have you been hired lately? That's my question.
Have I been hired?
Hired, yeah, for a job. You been working at all?
I have.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Still working on busted plumbing. I think I mentioned to you, I was working at the house, the pool, the bathrooms and stuff at our pool.
Yep.
And they had a busted pipe. Holy smokes, what a mess that was! Right next to the electrical box.
Ooh.
When I turned it on, the water's flying all over the electrical. I mean, it's like, wow. So the closet was really skinny. Boy, it's just, the width of it, or the depth of it was maybe about a foot and a half. And I had to get way the hell up there in the top to fix this busted pipe. I couldn't get to it from the attic. So I had to cut the whole wall apart. What a mess. But anyways.
Anyway. Well, yeah, and that was what, a month or 6 weeks ago? That's been a while since because we're recording.
Yeah. So what they do is they turn the water off to the pool house, and they play tennis down there. So when they play tennis to it, they would turn the water back on.
Oh.
I'm not for that, because nobody knows how to, evacuate, drain the rest of it after they get done playing tennis for the bathrooms. Anyways. That's when they discovered it.
Yeah. So several weeks down the road. So I guess the warning tip there is, folks, if you've here in the South, I'm going to rephrase this because people in the North don't have these issues, but here in the South, you still can find those broken pipes from the cold snap we had right before Christmas. So keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. So yeah, I've been busy just doing my thing. I was working on some trimming out some fence posts, or actually they're on a deck, but they're the top of 6x6 posts. And I'll tell you what, this contractor, we talk a lot about how contractors don't do good work. This contractor must have been a cabinet builder, because he glued everything together and used oak. And I was like, wow, like it sort of caught me by surprise. Honestly, I was a little shocked at the amount of time it took me to get these trim pieces were rotten after 40 years of sitting outside. They were rotten. Big surprise. But I thought they were just going to pry off. Oh no, they had to be sawzalled off. I mean, and I used an aggressive demo blade, and I'm like, oh yeah, this will cut through it really quickly. No, this was it had to be oak, because it was some kind of really hard wood. I don't know what kind of wood it was.
Maybe it was steel.
It wasn't steel. But I wish it was, because it wouldn't have rotted. It would have rusted. But anyway, it was just kind of one of those jobs that was like, wow, this took me a lot longer than I anticipated, just because of the time of removal. And then, the glue was kind of the thing. And as I looked at the rest of the construction on the deck, I was like, yeah, this guy was a really fine craftsman. I mean, I hate to say that, because just the way he put these slats up on the deck, Johnny, I hadn't told you this part, but he put these slats on, and he actually put the oval shaped shims.
Yeah,
those were what held the slats up. Biscuits. Yeah. That's what held up the slats. I was like, wow, somebody really this is like fine cabinetry work. And then I was like, but it's a deck and it's gonna rot. But I guess he figured he was probably going to be dead by the time they got around to it, because I think it was about 40 years old. So
yeah, either that or he was doing work on the inside, and the guy says, hey man, can you trim out my deck?
Could be.
On the outside.
Yeah, could be.
Anyways, same guy.
Anyway, really nice work. Just really hard to get off and do the work. So
Yep.
John, we wanted to revisit some of these tips and tricks, because most of the time you'll hear us talk about how contractors don't do their jobs, right? I mean, if when we're in on these jobs, we see the sins of 30 years ago, and when contractors cut corners, many, many years ago is what my experience is. And I think yours mirrors that. So we wanted to give some tips and tricks for hiring handymen and or contractors. They kind of go hand in hand. I think the biggest difference is when you hire a contractor, it's a much longer term arrangement that you're going to be with versus a handyman might just be day work or a couple of days worth of work. And so there are some distinctions that we wanted to make and just kind of go through that. We originally did this show in November of 2019. So if you want to go listen to the original version, you're going to hear much of the same things, but we try not to rehash the content, but at the same time, this content is something that it has to be brought back out every so often. So
yeah, I'll say this, that it's kind of just a refresh of that show, and just so I think almost lessons learned,
right,
as well from that,
right.
So just kind of do a little patchwork here on that previous show.
And we discussed, John and I discussed before the show started, we want to present both sides of this this process, as it were. So meaning we want to present the handyman side and the customer side. So because there's always two sides to a story. The idea for this show came out of, I was reading a post on one of the social media platforms that was very, very in depth. And this person was very much giving a laundry list of why you shouldn't hire this particular handyman. And many, many, many of those things that are there are things that to me are just like, really? Like, okay, understood. But John brought up the fact that we need to present the other side of the story too, because there are always two sides to that story. So, and in that, I thought, you know what, you're right. We're going to do that, and we're going to present both sides of the story, as it were. Johnny, where would you like to start with this one? I thought we'd start with scope of work. Is that where you'd like to start with?
I think, yeah, you can start there. One of the things that if I have to go back after the first show, just to take one step back, I think we're both ex-sales guys, so we can read people pretty well.
Correct.
But it's always, reading people for the situation. And the situation here is that, hey, now you're not selling software. You're not selling trucks. Now you're selling, your work, and you have to work with people in their house. So it's a little bit different than, visiting a business and things like that. I mean, now it's really personal, right? So, I think one of the things that you have to become really good at is reading people. And I think that's where, we talked about this earlier, who you want to work for. Can you get along with these people? Can they get along with you? And I think part of that is, on the other side of things, when we present both sides of this, is that, that can be a rub, right? Can we actually work with these folks,
right?
As your customers,
right?
And in most cases, yeah, and hey, no problem.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every once in a while, you kind of get a bad feeling.
Yes.
And if your gut's telling you, nah, that's probably going to be a walk away. And there might be situations, and you can talk to one of them, Larry. But I just wanted to lay that groundwork, and I think that's the first thing before you even take the job.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. And folks, that goes, John just said it, but I'm just going to reiterate the point. It goes both ways. So that's both the homeowner. You have to feel good about who you're hiring, and it's really a feeling. I don't know how else to put it, that you have to feel comfortable with this person. You're inviting them into your home. And conversely, if you're a handyman out there, you are going into someone's home. And so there's an element, or there should be an element of respect. If you're hiring somebody, they should come in with a bit of respect, and of your home. How is this evidenced? Well, one of the ways that it's evidenced, that John and I went and did an estimate yesterday. And so a lot of this is kind of fresh in our mind. But as I walk in the home, my first question to somebody is shoes on or shoes off? And that's for me, that's how I show respect for their home. And especially if this was a very, very, very nice home. So obviously I'm like, I'm not tracking through their home if it's not acceptable to
Right.
them, kind of thing. And but there's just a whole series of small little things that come in when you're hiring somebody that you want to understand their process. Now, some of it is done in person, some of it is done, you can tell even over the phone, what is their attitude and what is that kind of thing. And so there's just a whole series of things, but that's a two-sided thing, right? If the person, for example, if you're a handyman and you go in there or you go into somebody's home and you feel like you're being treated like I hate to say the hired help, you are the hired help, but you're being treated as a lowly person and it just rubs you the wrong way, walk away, right? As a
Yeah.
handyman, because it's not going to go well. It's just not
Yeah.
going to go well,
Yeah.
unless it's just a super simple job.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I just had an experience that I probably won't work for somebody that I just worked for the other day. I'll never work for them again. It's not it's fine, but talk about not being able to make a decision, and I'm standing there and standing there, and it's like, are we going to do this or are we not going to do it? And I'm like, hey man, I'm out of here, that type of thing.
Yep. Yep.
So anyways, it's kind of weird, you analysis paralysis, I guess, and you get to some folks can really try to overanalyze a situation. It's very simple. It's nothing very complicated. I'm not going to go into it here, but very simple process to fix this. It's just you're wasting my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just didn't feel good about it. Put it that way. I got that feeling that's like, yeah, no.
Right. Right.
That kind of thing.
A lot. Yeah.
So
And that, folks, that goes both ways, right? Same
yeah,
on both on the handyman
exactly.
side and on the thing. We actually did a show, and I didn't get the date on it, but we did a show on actually how do you seduce the handyman, or how do you hire how do you present
Yeah.
yourself to hire a contractor handyman? How do you present yourself? Because if handymen are really, really busy, you do have to make, it's a two-edged
No,
sales.
yeah.
It's double-edged
Yep.
sales,
With
right?
contractors, anybody,
Anybody. Yeah.
So
Really is what it is.
so
But here, so I talked about scope of work because I think it's
yeah.
probably one of my biggest pet peeves that I see just out there. And John and I talk about this all the time. It's called scope of work. It's like, what are you really capable of doing? And I'm gonna present the homeowner side, John, and you can present, and then we can add to each other's. On this, you
Yeah.
present the handyman side. But my thing is, if I'm a homeowner, I want to know what is it that you can actually do and do competently, and there should be, in my opinion, because this is truly an opinion, there should be some things that you don't do or don't want to do for a number of logical and realistic reasons, right? So so that's scope of work. Like, you can be a jack of all trades, but you will be master of none. And there's certain things that you just don't do. And we'll give out my example and John's example is, we don't do heights. We don't do things up high anymore because we're just too old. I don't work in electrical boxes. I will not do work inside the electrical box. I'm not licensed. That's actually the reason why I don't do that. Plus, I'm just not comfortable in there. So those are two things that I personally won't do. But as a homeowner, if somebody comes to me and I say, I need this done, I need that done, and they say, yeah, I don't do that kind of work. I have somebody that can or whatever, but I don't do that kind of work. I actually, for me, I like that because I like to know that they don't do those things. It helps me make a better decision. So, Johnny, what's the handyman side of that?
Well, the handyman side of that, from my perspective, is to be honest, and know your limitations. Um, we get asked, we'll get asked about some electrical stuff. We'll do light electrical, we'll do light plumbing and things like that. But when it comes to very comprehensive plumbing or anything else, I've just come right out and say, look, I'll do things in my own house. I'll do
Right.
this in my own house, but I won't do it for you because, liability and licensing, and you're going to feel comfortable. However, I've got somebody that can do it.
Right.
and I don't leave them just in a lurch. I've got somebody, and I think everybody out there needs to have that kind of backup. You know, you need to make, and I think we've talked about this before in some of the shows, is you need to have your a network,
Yep.
of some especially electricians and plumbers, and they appreciate it. You know, and it goes both ways. It cuts both ways. You know, when they open up a wall, they'll call you to fix it. You know, and then you call them for these kind of things, which we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Yep.
But you know, I'm just very honest now. Also, if it becomes something of a craftsman type of thing where I'm just not comfortable, you know, let's say you know, you can pick something. I don't care. It's you know, like a master woodworker. No, I'm not that guy.
Right.
I don't have those tools.
Right.
I'm just not that guy. Okay. So I will, you know, I will refer them out to somebody else. There might be other times when I'll refer, you know, people to, you know, the big thing about cabinets,
Yeah, I was just gonna
repainting
say.
cabinets,
Yep.
redoing cabinets.
Yep.
I'm not going to do that. But I know somebody has a business that is excellent at doing it, and I've referred him thousands and thousands of dollars for the business.
Exactly.
So,
Yep.
you know, but anyways, that being said, it's, you just know your limitations. And I will say that, you know, everybody really appreciates that. Like you as the homeowner, right?
I
In this
do.
conversation,
Yeah.
you appreciate,
Yeah.
hey, the guy's honest.
Right.
And that means, you know, that's very telling about the rest of the way he works too.
Correct.
So
And,
he or she.
and it's a question of communication, which is one of the other things on my list. There needs to be a good communication, and we always talk about this professionalism from the standpoint of today there's more ways to get a hold of people than there's ever been. I mean, if you can't get a hold of somebody, it's because they don't want you to get a hold of them. You have to be active to not be gotten a hold of today, in my opinion, because there's texting, there's email, there's texting, there's phone calls, there's WhatsApp, there's whatever else. There's 8 million different ways, as I always say, smoke signals. I mean, there's more ways to get in touch with people today than there ever has been, and there needs to be communication, and it needs to be professional. You know, there's no, in my opinion, there's no reason to not be on time. I am being burned on this today, where I have a contractor coming in to do countertops because I don't do granite, right? Personally, I'm changing a countertop on a property that I own, and the guy was supposed to be there yesterday between 11 and 1, and they didn't show up at all. And I line my day out for that because, of course, it lands right in the middle of the day, right? And, you know, fortunately, I did get some work done in the afternoon, and I got some work done in the morning, which was good, you know, but it was still and
and that's the biggest rub, right? When you're trying to scheduling,
yes,
and you're waiting, and you're burning up time.
Yes. Yes.
And that kills everybody, you know.
And I personally like somebody that sets a time, not a range. Now, I get it. I get it. Trust me, I work in this business. I know it. I set ranges for the afternoon only. So, and that means I have a job in the morning first. And so, you know, because who knows, it's that unknown factor. But this yesterday was the first job of the morning. Right. So if it's, you know, if because I'm sorry, you're not putting in something before 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, they have to go to the shop and get the materials and this and that, unless they start at 6, which maybe they do. I don't know. But gosh, no phone call, nothing.
Yeah, see, so folks, right there is, you know, you can hear Larry's frustration. Is that one of the things is that he just addressed? There's a billion ways to get in touch with people these days. All he had to do is just pick up the phone and text you and say, hey man, I ran into a snag, you know, can't make it today, or, you know, whatever. You know, free me up, man. Don't keep me, you know, don't keep me tied down in your schedule. And there's no reason why they couldn't have just said, hey, you know, we can't make it today because, and then you understand, we work in this business. Everybody's got a business. Everybody gets tied up in one way or another. So.
You can hear the frustration in my voice, Johnny. I'm surprised.
Yeah, don't even go into the you know, sitting there all day in the doctor's office type of thing.
Well, that's a different industry. That's whatever. Anyway,
don't even go there. So, but yeah, it's infuriating to have that. And you're right, when they give you a range, and I get that too, but you know, it's like like a 4-hour window.
Yeah, and
You
4
know, like a
hours is
cable
like
company.
a daytime.
Like, from 8 to, we're gonna be there 8 to noon. Okay, is that 8 or is that noon or is that not? And I get it. Hey, the guy, is up on the roof. He had an issue, doing something. I don't know,
Whatever.
installing something. But whatever. I get it.
Here in Atlanta, right? I actually literally say this to people: traffic depending.
And then again, there's no reason why not be able to just pick up the phone.
Oh, you send a text if you're caught in traffic. Hey, wrapped up
hey
in
man,
traffic,
I'm
be there
stuck.
in X.
I'm stuck.
Yep.
I'm stuck here.
Yep.
So on and so forth. But anyways.
Anyway.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, you're talking about the scope of work. You were just describing to me earlier about, you don't need to go through the whole story, but the shower thing. And that little bit right there, just to replace, following up on somebody's footsteps. This goes into two things. One is, we did a show before about, you touch it, you own it. So following behind somebody that didn't do a good job or, trying to fix it, well, now you own it.
Yeah. And one thing is to be like, so from a homeowner standpoint, if I've got it doesn't matter what the contractor is. It could be anything. It could be, John, you and I've followed behind appliance repair guys. I've followed behind other contractors, other handymen. I've followed behind, other plumbers and electricians and stuff. We followed behind all of these guys a lot of the times. So as a homeowner, one of the things is if I'm calling somebody in, one of my newest clients, John, I'm just going to relate. I'm not related to this story, but she had a handyman and he was really good, but he retired. So he left the business.
I've been there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He left the business and which is fine. He's older than I am. So he left the business. And so I was following behind him. Well, he actually did really good work. So it's not been an issue, following behind him hasn't been an issue, but that was the reason why I actually have this one customer. The other side of that side is you get behind people that just do bad work. And this is this bathroom you're referring to, where this is a bathroom that it's a long story, but we got called in on a different type of job. And so she said, well, can you redo the bathroom? And I looked at it and I'm like, this really needs to be a rip out and redo. And she had already had 2 contractors in there to do this bathroom. And I guess neither of them, honestly, the last person did not know what he was doing in any way whatsoever. So scope of work was very, very poor. And I'm like coming in behind it and I'm like, I'm not going to take this job unless I can do the whole thing, which probably isn't going to happen because of cost, because she's already got way too much money into it. Part of the reason for this show is vet your people in the front, because you don't end up with 2 contractors. So you end up with this third mess is what it is. It's a third mess.
Yeah.
Hire once and pay. Don't always pick the cheapest, folks, because it's generally not the best. It's generally there's an issue, right?
Right. And also, this goes back to another show that we did, the things you should do and should do or stay away from. I think was the show. I can't remember the jobs you should do. But if you've never done a bathroom before, or a shower, you probably want to stay away from that one. And so my point here is that there are certain things that you have to really be careful of.
Yes.
It's not like somebody putting, fixing a drywall hole or something like that. You're talking about a long-term ramification and hidden leaks and all kinds of things that can happen in a job like you're doing. And that goes back to, the scope of work. What my point was, when you touch it, you own it. And that could turn out to be, they could be saying, hey, Larry, that's, great there, but this needs to be done.
Right.
It's like a pyramid, it's like, one thing after another.
It's a reverse Ponzi scheme, Johnny.
Yeah. So, you got to be careful now you're, if you don't have that understanding, I think, we go back to the beginning of this episode is that, reading people. And if they can't understand that, whatever you do is really not going to be what needs to be done.
Correct.
What they're asking for.
Right.
So it's got to be, hey, let's take a reality break here.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, and that's the other side of, as a homeowner, we want what we want. The homeowner wants what they want, but the handyman or contractor, we're not going to distinguish, but the contractor can do it or not, and maybe they can and maybe they can't, and then you get into, we haven't even touched on pricing or anything like that, and that's a whole nother kind of thing that we're not going to touch on that. We've talked about pricing and the triad of pricing. It's basically time, money, and quality. You can have two, but not three. And it's just very rare, to get good things. And like in this particular bathroom case, I know that these were guys that didn't know what they were doing, but they were cheap. I can just tell because the work was cheap.
There's a lot of that going around.
Yeah, and
I mean, unfortunately, everybody's really been busy, and it's a very there's a constriction of good people, and so there's a good chance you're not gonna get the best right now unless you wait.
Yeah, that there might be, there's some time factor that's involved, and be aware of that. Just as
and a job like this, you have to be really careful. Because that's a long-term ramification right there in the shower.
Right. Yeah. And it is, and this one is just, and even John, just to elaborate a little bit more, this one, I mean, they have plumbing issues also. And I was just like, so this guy tiled everything over and you have plumbing issues? Like what? WTF.
Yeah.
I was just like,
right.
oh,
yeah. This is a house of cards.
it's a house of, it's done very much a house of cards.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being, it doesn't mean it's a no for me, but it's going to end up being a no, because I know she doesn't want to spend the money to redo the whole bathroom. That's what it is. It's so, long story short,
Larry, you touch it, you own it.
Yeah, listen to my own show, right, John?
I'll dig that one up for you. I'll send that.
So, folks, so you understand, John and I are talking about this. He's like, "Hey, you should listen to this show. It's called Own Your Own Work." I'm like, "Thanks, buddy."
Yeah,
thanks.
you got it.
So, so
that's what I'm here for.
So that's it. So one of the other things that we do say, is get some references from some people, and you can do online references. You can get actual references, and just. But by the time you actually, do you really need to check references? I don't know. If you have a good long conversation with somebody about, we're talking about a little more involved projects, not can you hang a ceiling fan? That's like we say, that's kind of a commodity driven type thing where it's really relatively simple, unless it's 42 feet in the air or something like that. Or if you're running wire or something like that, it gets to be a different story. But in general, if you're replacing a ceiling fan, pretty simple job in general, kind of commodity based. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then we're kind of going off to the races on that kind of thing. But if we're getting into doing more, more involved work, John and I always try to build long-term relationships. So when we're looking from my customer standpoint, I want customers that want that long-term relationship, meaning they want me to come in anywhere from 1 to 3 times a year just to do, as I say, the to-do list, the this, the that, and the next thing. And those are kind of my beautiful ideal customers that have that understand that stuff breaks in their house on a basically daily, weekly basis, that something goes wrong, and they compile that list and they put it together for me, and I come and I do all that stuff, and it's a really wonderful relationship that I end up with my customers as a result of that. So that's kind of my goal. What else do we have on here, John? Are there other things? I mean, I hope people are kind of getting a feel for both sides of this story, because the handymen too need to understand, don't accept jobs you're not comfortable with. That's,
Yeah, I think that goes a long way, and just see if you can get along with the people and they get along with you.
Yeah.
Because you're now in somebody's house, right? And it's different than when you're working in your house,
right?
Yeah,
it's funny. So yesterday, John, we were looking at this job, and you just said, yeah, I'll do that in my house, but I'm not doing it here.
Yeah.
Which means we can do the work, but we're not going to. In this case,
right.
It was for code reasons. We're not going to do that.
Right.
We could do this ourselves, but no, we're not going to do that. And
put in some new circuits. I'm not. I'd rather have that was the case.
Yep.
But I think the honesty, just being upfront, and it also demonstrates, hey, I got the knowledge to do it, but my integrity says no. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not gonna tackle that one. I'd rather have you get a licensed electrician in
Well,
this case. But
and in this particular case, remember we said we will pull the wires.
yeah, we'll do everything else. Everything will be code work, but it's just when it comes to stuff like that, you're better off.
we're not doing the
we're
hookup.
all better off. I mean, we're all better off.
Yeah. So that's that's kind of one of the things. And so we hope that when you listen to this show and you understand you're contemplating hiring a handyman or a contractor, that you do take some of these bits of information to heart. And if you are a handyman or a contractor out there, understand that there's nothing wrong with saying no because it just doesn't match your scope of work. It's just not something you're comfortable with. Don't learn on the job, folks. Learn at your own house.
Well,
right?
And I've always gone by. There's only one thing worse than no business, and that's bad business.
Exactly.
So you don't want to get yourself in put either party in that position.
Correct.
So I've turned down jobs. For a variety of reasons. Some of them I just didn't want to do. I wasn't comfortable doing them. And but there's plenty of work out there to do.
Well,
and
and if there isn't, we can teach you how to. We can teach you how to go get some. So send us an email, right?
And actually, it's kind of funny that, and I'll close with this, is that when I've turned down some work because of either a skill set or just a level of being comfortable with it, they've actually referred me.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, very much so. Or called you back for other jobs. Yeah. For other jobs that you're actually, capable, or not that you're not capable, but that you're more comfortable with. Yeah. No, I've had that experience multiple times.
Yeah. So don't feel like you have to take those, take every job that's coming at you, because you can get yourself in a world of hurt.
Yeah. Here's the one thing that I have to say, John. You referred the last spaceship that landed at your house. You referred them over to my house. Now I can't get rid of the daggum things,
Hey, we always say that, take it apart. So the other day I bought some solar lights that I put on my deck. What do you think I did with those things? The first thing I did.
You took them apart.
I took one of them apart.
Yeah. See, you see.
I wanted to see what kind of.
That spaceship lands in Johnny's yard. Guess what? He takes this freaking thing apart.
I wanted to see what the rating was on the batteries, the cheap batteries that they have in those things. So I'm out there unscrewing, taking them apart.
Well, anyways, so by the way, what was the battery rating?
700 mile on a double A, which is pretty low.
That's pretty low.
You can get the other rechargeable ones I have are like 2,300. But anyway,
we did a whole show on batteries, folks. Go back in the archives and find it. We know a lot.
But it was kind of funny.
Anyway,
I kind of thought about this because first thing I did was I took the damn thing apart, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? I'm just curious,
It's a skill set. Being curious is a skill set, and taking things apart is one of those things, right? I always tell the story. Nobody understands this, right? About taking things apart. So if you're older, like John and I, or if you're probably over the age of, I guess, maybe 45, right? How many times did you take the lawnmower apart and your old man got pissed? Thank you. Multiple times.
No, I got one better than that. There's the skill set, taking things apart. Now putting them back together is a different story, right?
Yeah, so thank God for cell phones with cameras on them today, right? So it's snap a picture of everything because
what? That's kind of funny you said that, because I had a Polaroid back in like the 70s when I was taking stuff apart. I'd snap pictures, of brakes and things whenever I was doing, working on cars and all that. But the first thing I took apart that I can remember, that talk about your dad and mom being pissed, I took apart their this clock that they got for their wedding.
Oh, ouch.
The whole thing. And
how'd that go?
Not well.
Not well.
That was wouldn't go back together. There's a lot, man. There's a lot of springs and dials and stuff in there.
Really? They don't call them watchmakers for nothing.
No, it was a nice big thing.
This could be a whole nother show. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a whole nother show on this one. But this all started with, if the spaceship's land is, do you look at it or do you take it apart? And folks, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros radio show, please tell your friends and neighbors. Send them links to this show. We hope we are providing a good service for you out there. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email, questions at Handyman Pros Radio Show or handymanprosradioshow@gmail.com. Either way, we will get the message. Check out our website. It's handymanprosradioshow.com. We do have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, information, upcoming events, and tips and tricks and all that good sort of stuff. And we've got a Facebook group, too. It's called @Handyman Pros. Appreciate it. We will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.